One of the most searched questions on internet today is how to invest in stock market for the beginners. Well, a great question. But before we go any further, let me state this very clearly. I am not a stock market expert. I am not a financial advisor. I am just a layman who was actually looking for the same thing on internet, how to invest in stock market for beginners or some other questions, how to make money, how to create a cash flow, how to make passive income, and so on and so forth. And yes, in doing that, I researched, I did a lot of investing also. I made some money, but finally I understood few things which I'm sharing right now with you as part of this video at the Homestay Cat. So like many of you, I have learned investing the similar way. Read some books, did some research, talked to people, took some, advice, or, what do you say? Market tips, and invested in stocks, in SIPs, in mutual fund, made some money also, lost a lot of money also, then a little bit investment here and there in property, and accordingly tried to play around with building wealth, learned a few things, sometimes feeling happy when the market goes up and sometimes a bit nervous when the market goes down. Well, the nervousness has now been tamed with so many ups and downs going around. Now I'm actually not worried so much. But yes, when you see those red marks on your portfolio, something happens inside you. But then it is part of the game. It's part of the strategy, right? That's what we have learned when we have learned the art of investing, or a little bit investing. Art of investing is a great big word to say, but a little bit of investing. Before we move ahead, one important thing. If you want to be a successful and a profitable Airbnbpreneur, book a one-on-one consultancy call with our team. Link is below in the description. Now, let's continue the video. Let's start with the investing first. When you first started, about creating wealth, about understanding how to invest, similar, advices or suggestions, or you might have got it by reading some books and articles. Think long term. Invest in a balanced portfolio. A little bit of gold, a little bit of silver, a little bit of real estate, some in direct stock, some in mutual fund, and so on and so forth. So right now, there are so many financial instruments that we're actually confused कि भाई कहाँ invest करें, where should we actually invest? But what is the right balance? Well, very difficult to find that out. We all create our own balance. So I stumbled across this concept of short-term rentals, Airbnb business, homestay business, and your property, the part of portfolio you invested in creating a asset, your property, be it a land, be it a house, be it a space, which can actually be short-term rented, means people can stay there and you get the money by the number of days they stay there. That is short-term rentals. Can you make money? Yes, many people are actually doing that. It's called Airbnb business, short-term rental business, or homestay business per se. When we talk about property investment, your father has been doing, your forefather must have done that. Many people invest in property, and what they think is, in 10 years, it will grow, it will appreciate, and I'll sell that property and make huge wealth for me. Well, that has happened for a lot of people, especially in the past 20 years, the kind of appreciation which India has seen. A lot of wealth has been created by appreciation. But now slowly reality is striking in. Actually, the appreciations are not as flamboyant, I would say, like it used to be. People have started moving money to tier 2, tier 3 markets from tier 1 markets, and they're expecting big kind of returns, appreciations, but they are dumbstruck a bit. They're confused. Not every property makes money. Not every space makes money. Now people are trying to figure out how can my property can be an asset that creates a regular cash flow for me. Well, there is a good option. In the last 10-12 years, short-term rentals, homestays business, Airbnb business has actually come out for the rescue of a lot of them. People are making good passive income, good real income by renting the property on short term. 1 day, 2 day, a week, or even months, and making much more money than they would have made in long-term rentals. But is it passive? Well, it's not passive work at all. It might be a passive income. How? Well, simply put, it's kind of a mini hospitality business. You are catering to humans. You are bringing humans into your property. They are living there with their families, or solo travelers, or couples. They're coming there to spend their time, good time. They need certain kind of facilities, amenities, and if you don't provide them whatever you promise, there are bound to be complications. You're going to have bad reviews, and reviews are so important. You're going to have bad word of mouth, and there is where your property goes haywire. But a good word of mouth, a good review, good badges, beautiful listing can be your asset online, and your property can actually make a lot of money for you. Okay, well, people get confused by short-term rentals, long-term rentals. Let's take it by example and real data. Let's study a real data of one of the properties. The rental yield in many cities now is not very high actually, because the supply is more of the properties and the demand is less. But certain areas actually have a beautiful rental. But again, if you compare the cost of the asset with the kind of rentals or cash flow they're making, it comes to a minimum 2 to 4% only annually. That is the kind of cash flow or the return on investment which these properties are generating on long-term rent. Simple example, if you have a 1 crore apartment and it rents out for 25,000 per month, that's roughly 3 lakhs per year, right? Which is about 3% yield before maintenance and taxes. Now compare that with other financial instruments, let's say stocks for that sake. If the market gives 10 to 12% over the long term, that's good, right? Again, market fluctuates, nothing is guaranteed. And stocks investment requires a lot of skills, a lot of patience, and you should have a good idea on how to invest and where to invest and which companies, which scripts to invest in. Are you capable enough to do that? Well, that is a question which you need to answer. I per se am not very capable. I have burned my hands in a lot of scripts, in a lot of stocks, so I mostly preferred mutual funds. And this one exciting journey which I've taken as Airbnb business, that excites me, and now a lot of investment is going into building up that kind of asset, which we are discussing today with you. You've seen the long-term rentals. Compare it with the same property on short-term rental or Airbnb. Let's say it makes about 4,000 rupees per day, right? And you're booked for 10 days, right? So 10 days mean 40,000 revenue you've made. Of course, there has to be some, OPEX involved, your electricity, internet, maintenance, housekeeping. Still, it would be, let's say, 10,000 rupees, 12,000 rupees. Still, you are able to save close to 30,000 rupees, which is actually more than the 25,000 rental you were earning. That rental also, there'll be a deduction on maintenance and taxes, etc. Well, similarly, so now with just 10 days of occupancy in 30 days in a month, you are actually making more money. Now imagine if your property goes for 15 days in a month, 50% occupancy. Many of our hosts are actually achieving that. And believe me, many of our hosts are actually achieving close to 90% occupancy across India, be it Jaipur, be it Noida, be it Manali for that sake, many places. Yes, Manali, there is a variation, these are seasonal places, but places like, Bombay, Noida, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and these places where there is consistent flow of, demand of stays from corporate people, from business people, from tourists. There's a variety of traveler. The occupancy can easily be close to 50, 60, 70, 80%, depending on the location, depending on the quality of amenities, the service, the reviews, the kind of listing you have, and the efforts your team puts in. Well, now, when we talk about this, we talk with real examples. So let me give you an example of one of our primary hosts who we are helping as a co-host in Bangalore. Now, Bangalore is a place where there is consistent demand of short-term rentals. A lot of people from corporate background, from tourists, and everybody is looking for space, an experiential stay. And a host from Bangalore, I will not take their name, but everybody knows about them. They have just a beautiful room. They have let out in their beautifully created villa, a sustainable building with lawn, with earthy experiences. They have let out a small suite in the first floor. We started with them about an year back. We listed the property. They had zero knowledge of Airbnb. We consulted them. We created the listing. We made sure that whatever amenities are required were put in, consulted in the photography, listed their property, and slowly it started making money. Within the first 3 months, they were making close to 20,000 sustained revenue from this one room. And now, today, as we stand, the last revenue they made, that is in February 2026, 75,000 rupees from one single room. That is the kind of money and that is the kind of return you can also make just from a single room. But yes, it requires patience, it requires passion, it required so many sacrifices, I would say. The systems have to be correct, your listing has to be beautifully designed, Airbnb AI and algorithm friendly, and it has to have a good VB score, and the host who is at the center epic of the experience of that property, they have to be beautiful people. The kind of services our host from Bangalore provides, outstanding. They get 5-star reviews stay after stay, and that is what makes them the guest favorite in Bangalore. One single room, 75,000 revenue. That's the kind of money you can also make. But yes, this might be seasonal. But on average, you can keep making sustainable income month after month, given you follow certain systems, you follow a strategy, you follow a proper technique, you are friendly with the Airbnb AI and algorithm, your listing has a good VB score, and your services, your amenities, and the most important, the human element, that has to be sorted. The experience has to be great. That is what really matters. Well, excited? Well, it is something very exciting. When you are hosting, you are actually starting an entrepreneur's journey. You are solving people's problems. Many people who are coming out from that toxic environment in their office. They just want to get away. They want to relax, sit, experience, read a book, have that coffee or a couple of beer with the friends, actually converse, talk to people. The art of communication is getting lost in this world of social media. People are not talking to each other. There is where they want to detoxify. They want to be away from the digital world. They just want to sit, relax, a couple, a family, and talk. And with that, they require certain amenities, a comfortable bed, a great environment, a kitchen, probably a good lawn to walk around in the morning, great balcony with a great view, birds coming in, and you are having a good coffee in the morning. This is the kind of experience, and a good host who can actually make your day with that beautiful smile. And that actually gives them that energy to fight their way for the next week so that they can come back at the weekend and detoxify again. And this keeps on repeating. It becomes an addiction. And a lot of people are now actually looking for experiential stays, homestays, Airbnbs, where the primary host is at the core of experience. So if you are planning something like that, you need to understand that this is a great responsibility you are taking as a primary host, as an Airbnbpreneur. You need to understand the psychology of human. You need to provide them amenities, services, and for that you need to understand the concept of homestays. You need to actually move around, travel, and experience such kind of stays, and yourself find out what gave you satisfaction, what was not good, so that when you start your system, you learn it better. And of course, there are experts for you, there are advisors for you. At the Homestay Academy, we do everything from A to Z, from consultancy calls to giving you directions to actually designing your interiors, designing your listing, photography, and a lot more. We also have so many courses now where you can actually sit in the computer and learn about the whole experience. But having said everything, you keep watching this video, you keep doing so many courses until and unless you actually start, you work on the ground. That is the time real learning will come in. You might fail in your first listing, but it'll come with a lot of learnings. And believe me, if you are doing it right, if you're doing it with strategy, consultancy, with systems in place, the chances of success are actually very high. And make sure one thing, when you are doing your first Airbnb, your first listing, regard it as your MBA. Learn from it. People say that, it's not making money. So first month में what business makes money? This is also business. It will certainly make money. Nurture it like a tree. Let it flower, nurture, take care, let the fruits come, and then enjoy the fruits in a sustainable manner. Well, if this video has excited you, if you are learning about investing, about how to invest, think about your property, your asset, that can be a cash flow machine for you. You are somebody in your 20s who has just started investing. You are somebody in your mid 35s. You already have 2 EMIs running, but you are thinking on how to generate wealth, how to create cash flow. And if you are someone who is just retiring or planning to retire and requires a consistent cash flow and actually needs a work to which they can expand, this Airbnb business, short-term rental business, homestays business could be the right choice just for you. Think of it like portfolio building. You invest in stocks, you invest in gold, you invest in property. Now is the time to make money from your assets, from your property. This could be a major part of your portfolio. Well, if you're thinking on those lines, this is the right channel for you. We talk about short-term rental business, Airbnb business, homestays business, you call it, whatever name you call it. The idea is short-term rental, renting out your space for short-term durations, 1 day, 2 days, and making a business model out of it, creating real income for you. If that sounds interesting and you need to learn more about it, you have certain doubts, well, we have a free one-on-one video call for 10 minutes with experts right for you. The link is right below. Click on the link below and book your one-on-one consultancy video call free of cost. And well, if you like such contents, we regularly make such contents. All you have to do is like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We are really working hard to create an Airbnb-preneurs community in India. Thanks for watching.